Chief Mang is also our spiritual advisor for BDF aided at our center. Chief Mang resides in Brickfield in KL. Chief Mang travels all over the world teaching Dhammas. So tonight's topic is Buddhism for Human Destiny.
Dear devotees, today actually I am very happy to see that there are many devotees who have assembled here to attend to this religious sermon. I think this is the fourth time that I have been giving this religious talk in this place. I can remember very well how this Buddhist center was established many years ago, especially Mr. Go and some other members who discussed this, how to form this new Buddhist center. At the beginning they had the idea of the formations of Theravada Buddhist center, because they believe that Theravada is very pure and it is better to use the word Theravada. I advise them not to use that word because we separate from others. Others think that we want to keep away from others. To avoid that, finally we decided this Buddha Dhamma center, now US fellowship, then common to every Buddhist. We don't want to say we are superior or inferior or anything, very common. At the same time, I would like to advise you, since our Buddhist community in this country is very small, therefore we should not divide into different groups to discriminate or criticize and condemn the other's way of practicing Buddhism. There may be many things that we cannot agree, but it's not nice for us to criticize, but we can talk to them nicely, without creating any misunderstanding, and help each other. Now we have Cochin Buddhist Society, and this is Buddha Dhamma Center, and this afternoon I visited another new Buddhist center, I think the Buddha Bhagavan Buddhist Center, something I cannot remember. And again you have Sarawak Buddhist Society. There is no reason to show any discrimination. If you can understand what the Buddha taught, that is enough. Let others to practice their own tradition, their custom, their culture, their way of life through Buddhism. That is why in different countries people have different ways, different method to practice Buddhism. When you visit China, Korea, Japan, Mongolia or Tibet, then Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma and the Western countries, you can see the differences. Therefore, one particular group should not say that they are higher than the others. In the West, last month I was in England. I visited many Buddhist countries, the Buddhist societies. They are not interested in the rituals, on rites and rituals side. They need only dharma or philosophy or psychology or meditation. And Asian countries, people maintained this religion for more than 2,500 years by paying more attention towards traditional cultural practices. Otherwise, religion might have disappeared long ago. Culture and religion must combine together. Otherwise, religion becomes very dry subject. Only few generations maintain that, after that disappear. But when we incorporate, combine with our cultural practices, then people say, this is our culture, this is our cultural heritage. Therefore, it is our duty to maintain this noble tradition, noble way of life. So, whatever Chinese practice as their culture, we can see religious aspect also there. Whenever they practice religious activities, Chinese culture is there, interrelated. Chinese culture and Buddhism. That is how Buddhism existed such a long time in Japan, Korea, China, Mongolia and many other countries. Here in Malaysia, you know this is not a Buddhist country. Even then, we have enough Buddhists here. If we can organize our religious activities properly, with understanding, we will be able to maintain this noble religion and contribute something for the country and the nations and the public according to this religion. That is very important. So when we practice our religion, we have to work in such a way for the public as well as the government to understand that we not only worship and pray or performing ceremonies, but we also contribute something to the country for the well-being of others. Then they will recognize. There is one particular point, I have mentioned this on many occasions. Christmas Day, Prime Minister of this country in a greeting message. Deepavali, Hindu religious festival, Prime Minister give a message. Hari Raya, of course, it is natural. So far, Prime Minister has not given any greeting message to Buddhists on Vesak Day. What is the reason? Buddhists could not work to influence the government, make them to understand that this religion also contributing something for the well-being of the citizen, the country and the nation. That is our weakness. At the same time, in the name of religion, we waste so many things. I have never seen Hindu or Christian or Muslim waste their money for unnecessary things in the name of religion. Take for instance on Vesak Day in Kuala Lumpur, Penang. They made so many floats. For one float they spend about $5,000, $10,000. After going one round, come back, dismantle and throw and burn. But have you ever seen Christians or Muslims or Hindus are doing like this, wasting for unnecessary things? For our rites and rituals, how much we waste? We had to do something, especially for the living being, for our country, for people to know that Buddhism also an important religion, not only to go to heaven or nirvana, but to contribute for the well-being of others. Christians are respected by the government because they have so many schools, colleges, orphanages, old folks home, so many other welfare centers. Then the government recognizes that religion. This religion contributes something for this country. Therefore we had to train our people to cut down unnecessary expenses for rite and ritual. Try to do some service to others, to release their suffering, their poverty, and their fear, their sicknesses, their old age. So, in various ways we can, but our people are not very advanced in that respect. So we have to think this very carefully. Anyway, this evening our topic is what Buddhism can contribute for our human destiny. Where we go, or with the mankind. What is our fate? What is our aim in our life? See whether Buddhism can contribute something for us. Then we can gain satisfaction. We can gain confidence. Otherwise there is no meaning. There must be an aim. Then Buddhism can point out what this aim is. Then how to reach, how to gain. The Buddha has done this very carefully. All of you know, more than 2,500 years ago in India, people have become slaves to religion, slaves to God. They had 33 million gods in India at that time. Can you imagine? So most of them spent their time praying and worshipping and offering to these gods. And the Buddha appeared. He explained so many things which others could not understand before. Through this understanding, they forget many of those gods they have been worshipping and praying. But still remains a lot. When scientists have discovered so many things that human beings have never heard, then again they have given up so many concepts and belief on God. Because at that time, to them, everything is God. Wind is God. Water is God. Fire is God. Food is God. Vegetable is God. everything they regarded as God and started to worship. It is due to their ignorance. Started so many thousands of years ago, but still they wanted to maintain. So the Buddha had a very big battle as a religious revolutionist to discard all those traditional beliefs. Then introduce as a rational religion, meaningful, practicable, rational religion without depending on mere concept or belief. Then they introduce the fate of our life is in the God's hand. Therefore, God is responsible for our life. Our duty is to pray and worship and believe. He will do the job. They have completely become slaves to God, depend on God. The Buddha rejected this belief. Then some others believe by performing rites and rituals and ceremonies and spending so much, whatever they have, burning in the name of God, to please God, they can find out the aim of their life or the salvation. Some others, by sacrificing animals in thousands at a time, cows, goats, horses, many other kind of animal, burns alive as offering to God. They say by doing that they can please God, can find out their salvation. Some others, by torturing this body, they can wash away all the sins or the bad karmas committed by them. But still there are people who believe this. By burning here and there, walking here and there, and starving without taking food, suffering from sicknesses without taking medicine, without sleeping, whole day and night. Belief is, the more we torture the body, the more easily we can wash away all the sins, then they become pure. The Buddha rejected this also. He said, if you want to punish, to get rid of your sins, by punishing your physical body, you never gain anything. Why? Physical body is not responsible for all the bad deeds that we have committed. The mind used the body like a weapon. Therefore, body is not responsible. A man uses a gun to kill another person. Now you come and torture this gun, not the man who shot. The Buddha says, if you want to punish, you must punish the mind, the man who created this idea of shooting. Then, how to punish the mind? He taught. when you are greedy, when you are selfish, you must develop this understanding that it is wrong. You must be generous, you must contribute something for others. That is the punishment for the mind. Without allowing that mind to develop that greed and selfishness. When you get angry, don't allow this anger to flare up. Develop kindness, compassion, sympathy in your mind. That is the punishment for the mind. See whether they are practical or meaningful or not. When you are very cruel, very wicked, then you have to develop in your mind our sympathy, our patience, our tolerance, our understanding are very important to get rid of these evil forces. That is the punishment towards the mind. This is the method introduced by the Buddha. Not to worship anybody, not to pray, not to do any offering in the name of God or spirit or devil or ghost, even the Buddha. He said, it is not necessary for you to come and worship me. I am not here to receive your salute. What I need for you to be good, then you respect the Buddha. You don't worship, but you follow his teaching, his advices. The Buddha said, they are very nearer to me, close to me, but not those who come and worship me. But we like to worship him, respect him for showing the correct path for us. So therefore he, although he does not expect our salutation, we like to respect him. Then some others. This life come into existence accidentally, not planned or created by another person. Therefore, we can do anything whatever we like. We must have freedom to do anything whatever we want. Those who believe that after our death there will be another life, another existence, is wrong. There is no such thing. So far we have never met a single person who has come back and reported to us. Therefore this is only a belief. We must have freedom to live as we like. This is another group. That is their religion. Then another group, those who do not believe in God, they say there is a universal consciousness. All these things, living beings, living things that exist here in this world, derived from that universal consciousness, exist or remain for a short period, after that disappear. Disappeared means absorbed into the same universal consciousness. This is another interpretation. See how many opinions are there. Then some religions say after our death either in hell or heaven. Rebirth or existence again take place. In between there is no another place. Hell or heaven. Then few other religions say not only heaven and hell. There are so many other places. Rebirth can take place. We do believe that heaven and hell are there. But there are many other places. Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, some other religions. They believe not only heaven and hell, there are many other places. In the teachings of the Buddha, there are altogether 31 planes of existence. Hell, animals, a spirit, ghost, human. Then devas, 6 kinds of devas, loka, 16 kinds of Brahma, loka. Among those Brahma, 2 more groups. One group, physical body remain without active mind, just like under anesthetic injection. Body remains. Another place, mental energy remains without a physical body. These are the 31 planes of existence. Kammang satte vibhajati adidang hina panitata. All those discriminations among the living beings take place because of their own karma. We know we cannot live without creating good karma or bad karma. Whether we have religion or not, whether we are good or bad, we cannot live without creating good karma as well as bad karma. Most dangerous, cruel, wicked man also create some good karma. Very religious man also create some bad karma. This is the nature of life. Therefore, karma alone handle our life, not the Buddha or God. The way how we live in this world, the next existence takes place according to our way of life here. Every minute we are molding our next existence. We do not know that. A simple sayings of the Buddha in English says like this. Even a child can understand. I told you, if we talk, you have to come and give the talk. So, this is the saying. We are the result of what we were. We will be the result of what we are. Very easy to understand. Now we are leading this way of life today, and we do not know how we have molded this life for us to live like this. Compare your life with others. Many others are blind, deaf, crippled, mad, stupid, unfortunate, miserable, suffering day and night, nothing to eat. That is their way of life. Now you can see, your way of life is different. Then, who created, who produced your life to be like this? Nobody else. Your own life, your own mind that you have accumulated, karma, good karma and bad karma, molded your life in this way. Therefore you cannot blame, accuse. You are responsible for your problem. Then you will be the result of what you are. Consider your way of life. What you do for your living. What you do for your pleasure. With the reasonable way or righteous way or by adopting immoral, wicked, cruel, harmful method or by bluffing, cheating, swindling others. How you earn, how you enjoy, how you live. These things are going on molding your next existence. Your mental energy that you use for these activities create karma. These karmas are going on accumulating, collecting. When the death takes place, then the mind, life, karma, these three get together. They are very good friends. One cannot live without the other. Mind cannot live without body. Body cannot live without mind. Both cannot exist without karma. Combined together. So after our death, they use their energy, mental energy, life process and karmic energy. Then the mental energy, at that time we call consciousness. So consciousness depart. When that consciousness depart from here, in that consciousness, there are so many ingredients, not only pure mind. Very clearly Buddha explained this. What are the ingredients in our consciousness? Avidya, Trishna, Karma, Upadana, Bhava. 5. Again, 5 senses that bring object from outside, external object, the 5 senses bring and contribute to the consciousness. Again, our mind divided into 4 mental faculties. Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. 4 mental faculties. Each mental faculty has its own duty. Vedana, our feeling. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Every minute we experience this feeling. And this feeling also contributes to the consciousness. Then, perception. Perception means recognition, identification. We realize this is good, this is bad, this is moral, this is immoral. This is dangerous, this is useful. One mental faculty for that. Then this mental faculty also contributes to the consciousness. Then come to sankhara. Wholesome, unwholesome. Mental habit. We have accumulated so much mental habit. Some are good, some are bad. All are there. Not so easy for us to get rid of this habit. We know they are wrong, but it has become a habit, our hobby. So we don't like to get rid of this. That mental formation also contributes to the consciousness. Now see how many things are there in that consciousness which depart from it. Those who could not understand the real definition of the consciousness introduced this word soul, self. The Buddha very clearly says this is a misinterpretation, misunderstanding of the consciousness they introduce as soul. There is no such thing as soul to remain in the mind. Only consciousness. In Samyutta Nikaya, Sutra Pitaka, the Buddha says, Viññānaṁ mātukuchismiṁ akkramati. When that viññāna, consciousness, transmitted, project or departed from the body, that must be landed in a mother's womb. Cannot remain anywhere else. Viññānaṁ mātu kuchismi, mother's womb, okkamati, drop, just like flashlight. Then this will become the nucleus of another life in the mother's womb. Although it is a new life, but the ingredients that we brought with the consciousness are the same connection. That is why it is called relinking consciousness. There is a link from the previous birth to this birth. Relinking. So that is how we maintain, we carry on our habit, our nature, our character, our behavior, our talent, without dropping them. Now let us take the Buddha. He started long ago by practicing paramitas, virtues, to gain the enlightenment. So life after life, he went on developing, but carry forward what he has developed and cultivated earlier because of the relinking consciousness. Now all of us have certain habits or nature, character in our life that we had in our previous birth. So we are using this here. But after our death, again we continue. Certain bad habits, certain good habits. This is how the continuity of life maintained. There's nobody behind God or Buddha or anybody behind. Our own karma, our own mental energy, and our own life process. These three. Then, when the next existence takes place, shape may become entirely different. Karma is responsible for that. And human life here, after death, can become animal. Formations of animal life. If not a deva or a brahma, or a spirit or ghost, different forms. But the mental ingredients still maintain, carry on. When the evil forces become very heavy, when we live by abusing, insulting our human life, it is not so easy for us to become human beings again. There are many human beings. They lead a life worse than animals. Animals never behave in such a way. They follow the nature. But behavior of certain human beings worse than animals. So it is difficult for them to become human again. Because they abused human life. They are molding their life with those ingredients. Nobody else to create that. That is what the Buddha says, I am responsible for my life, and you are responsible for your life. There is nobody in this world who can take the responsibility of your life. Remember this. Then he says, Attanam upamam kattva nahaneya nagate. If you love this life, this body, what do you have to do? Not to harm others. If you harm others, that means you do not love your life. Why? By harming others, you pave the way for you to suffer. If you love your life, how can you pave the way for you to suffer? It's not that another person come and punish you. Now see the way how Buddha has put this one. You say, I love my life. Good. If you love, it is impossible for you to do wicked, cruel, harmful things, because they will affect you. You allow your life to suffer because of those things. This is how you are molding your life. So the human destiny depends on our own mind, our own karma. There is nobody else to come and adjust and correct. No point of praying and worshipping, asking forgiveness. They cannot do that. Assume, due to our ignorance, we have created bad things. We realize. Now then we go and pray to God, pray to Buddha, please take away all my sins. The Buddha says it is impossible. Suddhi asuddhi pachattam nanya manya visodaye. Saying Sadhguru. Mental purity, mental pollution, both created by the same mind. Another person cannot purify, cannot pollute. Do you believe that? I cannot pollute your mind. I cannot purify your mind. But I can tell you how to do that. You say, I made you angry. You are wrong. I cannot create anger in your mind. Impossible. When I say something, you take this seriously into your mind. Then you create this anger in your mind. It is not that I created anger. I cannot create anger in your mind. If I say any vulgar, wicked, cruel thing, if you do not take this seriously, if you laugh, no anger in your mind. Another person cannot do that. Depends how we take this into our mind. So the destiny is in our hand, not in the hand of God or the Buddha. The Buddha very clearly, very honestly tell us, Tummehi kiccang atappang akhataro tathagata. The Buddhas can tell you what to do and what not to do for your salvation. Akhataro tathagata. The Buddhas can do only this much. He cannot take away your sin, he cannot purify you, or he cannot send you to hell, he cannot send you to heaven. So your duty is to listen to the Buddha, what he has said, and follow his guidance. Then you can create your own heaven. You create on your own health, if you have not listened to the teaching. So another person cannot create hell. Another person cannot send you to heaven. You pave the way for you to go there according to your way of life. So if you lead your life as real human being, then definitely, without any difficulty, you can become human beings again. Sometimes more fortunate than present human life. If you misuse this human life, abusing, not so easy to become humans again. Human values, human dignity, we had to uphold. Forget about religion. Religious labels are not important for that. Only your understanding. If you can understand that these things are wrong, wicked, cruel, harmful, dangerous, therefore I don't like to do. If you want to do something, these things are very important to support others, help others, to release their sufferings. It is your understanding. This is the way how we have to use the human life. I mentioned even last night, those who have no religion at all in this world, do you think they are living as barbarians just because they have no religion? They have no God, no heaven, no hell, no karma, no rebirth, no punishment, no reward. nothing. They don't believe anything. But they also lead their life as gentlemen. Gentleness is there in their life. Do you think they go to hell just because they have no religion? To me, actually they are more religious people. Why? Those who follow religion, they are scared of punishment, they develop fear, crazy to go to heaven for their own enjoyment. But those people have no such idea. They think as human beings, it is our duty to lead our life, live as human beings without harming others, without becoming nuisance to others. If that understanding is there, what is the use of religious labor? Religious label today they use for fighting. Introduce more jealousy, more hatred, more discrimination because of religion, label. Those who have no such religious labels are free from all these things. I always say, the Buddha was not a Buddhist. Jesus was not a Christian. Rama and Krishna were not Hindus. They had no religious label at that time. We have given these religious label to them. When Buddha was there was no Buddhism. When Jesus was there was no Christianity. Later they introduced these things. As Buddhists, we should not think Nirvana is only for the Buddhists, those who have a label. When they go there, have label here, Buddhist, then allowed went to Nirvana. The Buddha says, if you can reduce, eradicate, uproot all the evil thoughts from your mind, you will be in Nirvana. Whether you are a Hindu or Muslim or Christian makes no difference. Only mental purity. In that mental purity, there is no religious label. People are fighting, quarreling, attacking, condemning because of their ignorance. So the Buddha was a very understanding religious teacher. So, he said, I appear in this world only for two reasons, two things. To tell you why there are sufferings. Because people do not know why there are sufferings. To tell you why there are sufferings. And how to get rid of this suffering. Only these two. I am not interested in anything else. Then, he said, you suffer, you worry, you cry, you fight. Why? Who is responsible for that? Because of your own craving. You crave for something, when something happens to that thing, then you get angry, you get jealousy and anger and violence and bloodshed and sufferings. Worry. If you do not crave for anything, you never experience suffering, you never get angry, you never worry, you never cry. Free. That is why he said, my duty is to tell you why you suffer. Don't blame ghosts or devils or spirit or charms or black magic or this or that. If you suffer because of your craving. the very day when you uprooted this craving, you can understand completely free from all your worries and sufferings and unsatisfactoriness, disappointment, everything. Then, how to get rid of this suffering, this craving? Then he introduced noble path or middle path. They forget about all those things, worshipping to God, praying to God, worshipping to Buddha, offerings and burning the animal sacrifices, torturing body, rites and ritual. Forget about all those things. This is the path. He says, if you follow this path, if you tread this path, straight away you will find out the aim of your life. That is the fate. Aim of your life you can find only there. Here you cannot find the aim of your life. You never give. You think aim of your life is enjoyment. After enjoying, sometimes you get fed up. Then how can you say that is the aim of your life? You think aim of your life is to get married and produce children. After that marriage and having some children, enormous troubles and problems and disturbances, calamities, endless problems. But they have to tolerate all those things. They are natural. No other choice. They have to tolerate. How can we say that is the aim of life? Some others, the aim of life is to become a multi-millionaire. Oh, wonderful. Enjoy life. Multi-millionaire is shivering. Anytime people come and kidnap and disturb and kill him, take away all his property and bluff and simple, you think he's enjoying his life? A beggar at the roadside who is free from all these things, although he won't get enough things to eat, he experienced more freedom than the multimillionaire. How many pistols, how many guns, how many bodyguards, how many security guards, how many alarms, how many, your whole house. What a wonderful happiness. Is that the aim of life? We never think in this way. So, our fate, our destiny, our aim depend on how we use this life. Don't go and ask from another person. You go and worship and ask Buddha, please show me this one. Give me. Or the God, or Jesus, or somebody else. The Buddha says, you never gain this from another person. You never get this from heaven. And again, Western philosophers, Greek philosophers, humans means those who have sense of reasoning. Others have no sense of reasoning. Human beings are the living beings who can separate. These are moral, immoral. These are useful, wicked, harmful. That is sense of reasoning. Now small children have no sense of reasoning. Very easily people can catch them and mislead. Animals and other living beings have no sense of reasoning. They have limited mind to find out their food, shelter, protection and pleasure. They cannot extend their mind further. So their mind is only for their survival. Even the plant life also got senses for the survival. But the human beings have a mind to think and reason out. Sigmund Freud, a well-known psychologist, has said, those who think do not believe. Those who think do not believe. Those who believe do not think. Without thinking, they believe. 100% correct. Because in the Buddha's teaching, it is mentioned, you should not believe at once anything without studying, without thinking, without observing. If you develop your belief at once, you stop your thinking. If you think, you cannot satisfy. You want to go further and further and further and further until you satisfy. Before that, they never develop belief. These are meaningful sayings. So the Buddha's advice is, don't believe anything at once. You have a thinking mind. You have intelligence. Don't become victim to cunning people. You must think. Then accept. So, after thinking, understanding, confidence appears. Not the belief or faith. What's different between confidence and belief? Now we can believe anything, but later we will come to that it is wrong. But confidence we never gain at once. Going through all these channels, in the end we get the confidence. That is what the Buddha says. So, in simple language, I can tell you, forget about all these religions. Don't bring religious label. Try to understand human values. Very, very rare. To become human beings is not an easy task. Compare your life with all the other living beings, in the water, in the air and other places. Everything here in this world is covered by the human mind. After using full effort and energy and knowledge, working day and night, when they discovered, they say, oh, given by the God. Given by the God. Credit go to the God. This poor men work so hard, such a long time. Now, Isaac Newton, when he was sitting under the apple tree, the apple dropped. Then he started to think very deeply. Why all these things always come down instead of going up? There must be a reason. From that day onward, started to investigate, and then finally he discovered there is something, the law of gravity. Because of that gravity, everything comes down. But lucky he did not say, given by the God. Otherwise that will become religion. And people started to worship Isaac Newton. He did not say, given by the God. Then Charles Darwin discovered theory of evolution. Started from amoeba, one cell, living being, then start developing, evolving, changing. Today we are standing here as humans, but that one originated from there. Evolvement, evolution. But in his evolution, theory of evolution, and the Buddha's way of evolution, there is difference. Charles Darwin discovered only the evolutions of the elements. He observed only fossils. Come up to chimpanzee, baboon, then human. But he had no idea about evolutions of the mind, mental evolution. Elemental evolution alone cannot change the life. Mental evolution. Now if human beings become an animal, that is mental evolution. If animals become a human being, it is mental evolution. He had no idea about that. The Buddha has pointed out both evolutions and devolution, both. Then Albert Einstein discovered relativity. What is relativity? One particular unit or things or element cannot exist alone without depending on something else. That come into existence because of this. This come into existence because of that. The Buddha has mentioned this very early, Paticcasamuppada. Dependent upon origination. Imasming sati idang hoti. When there is that, this will appear. When this will here, that will appear. When that is there, the other one will appear. All these existing in the whole universe come into existence by depending on something. It is not directly created by the God as a particular life or the plant or the unit or anything. So they did not say all these things are given by the God. Nobody introduced them as messengers or prophets or son of God to worship them. The Buddha also did the same thing. Take karma, discovered by the Buddha. It is exactly like the law of gravity. Karma and law of gravity, the same. But he says, this karmic energy, theory, is given by the God, revealed by the God. No. It is a universal law. World exists because of this karmic energy. Kammana vattate loko. World exists because of karmic energy. When we say world, not only rock and hills and rivers and all these things. World here means all the living beings. Exist because of karma. So karma is responsible. We create the karma. After that, karma creates us. In your motor car, you have battery, you have engine, you have body in your car. Three things. To start the engine, you push one button, the battery supports the engine to start. Battery is just like karmic energy. Engine is the mind, mental energy. Then this engine, mental energy, carry the body of this vehicle. That is physical body. We carry this here and there because of these two energies, battery and engine. When the engine stops, no more. That is how things exist. So our destiny is in our hand, not in the Buddha's hand or anybody else's hand. The Buddha has paved the way for us to follow. If we want to have our salvation, aim of our life as our destiny, it is up to us. Another person by force cannot take you to heaven or hell or anywhere, and you are responsible for that. This is the teachings of the Buddha. I think enough.
Question and answer time.
Well, I assume that it means that when we say rebirth, this existence and the next existence are not necessarily the same. Okay. Now, what is the concept of the Tibetans' reincarnation practice? That they choose their leaders, they choose their religious leader based on the fact that they are able to identify the previous existence to be the same as the one that they are supposed to crown him as a crown for the religious purpose. How do you reconcile that?
I think to understand Buddhism or the teachings of the Buddha, we should not depend on one particular country, whether Tibet or China or Japan or Sri Lanka or Thailand or Burma, what they believe, their traditional belief. We must try to define and understand these things from the teachings of the Buddha, not from Mahayana or Theravada or Vajrayana or any yana. Try to find out what the Buddha said. Then there won't be any problems. But I remember just now, to explain the consciousness, I mentioned the long name list, but did not explain what those things are. You remember? I said consciousness, we have avidya, trishna, karma, upadana, bhava. Then again the five senses bring external object into the consciousness. Again 4 mental faculties bring object into the consciousness. But I did not explain. Just only name list. So then we can understand what is consciousness. Avidya. In our consciousness, there is ignorance. If there is no ignorance, those wrong ideas, wrong concepts and bad thoughts never dominate the mind. Ignorance nurtures them, support them. So ignorance is the main cause. Then in the same consciousness we have trishna, tanha, craving. Craving is nurtured, supported by ignorance. We have 3 kinds of craving in our mind. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Craving for pleasure, very strong. Craving for survival, living, even destroying millions of others, we want to survive. Craving for non-existence, just like committing suicide. Also craving. 3 kinds of craving in our mind. Then karma. All our good and bad karma that we have accumulated, deposit in the consciousness. Avidya, trishna, karma. Upadana. Grasping. Attachment. Inclination towards certain thing. Definitely, all of us have some sort of attachment or inclination towards certain thing. This is another ingredient in our mind. Then bhava. Bhava means karma bhava. This is not so easy to understand. Karma bhava means when we are going to die, the karma formation, one of the karmas that we have committed appear in the mind. After that, the minds come to know the nature of this karma, whether it is good karma or bad karma, according to the indication appear, the vision appears in the mind. After that, gati. Gati means according to this particular karma, where I go. Whether I will be born as humans or animals or hell or human devas, before our death we know. The belief that people maintain, after our death we go on searching a place, is a belief only. The Buddha's interpretation is, before we die, we know where we go, our destiny, according to our own karma. So all these things are there in our consciousness. Then this, our feeling, pleasant, unpleasant feeling we had already working in the mind. Our recognition, understanding of certain things working in the mind. Then our habit, our nature, wholesome, unwholesome habits and nature also influenced by the mental faculty. Then the five senses being external objects, they are also functioning in the consciousness. See how many forces are there in that consciousness. When that consciousness departed from here, then landed somewhere else, started another life, there's connection with the previous birth because of the mental ingredients. But the new ideas get into the mind for the environment of that new life. Then go on developing and developing. So I did not explain this. So your question, we should not try to analyze the teachings of the Buddha by referring to Tibet or China or Japan or Mongolia, but only the teachings of the Buddha. They have their traditional practices, accepted only by them, but not by others. In other countries also they have such things.
Second question is the topic of punishment. By conventional method, if I do something wrong today, I kill somebody today, but by the time I get to prison, maybe, let's say next day, who goes to prison? The mental element goes with it. I would think that physically, of course, I go into prison cell, but the mental element that goes in is not the same, is it? So why are we being punished for something that was done previously? If assuming that the second person, by the time I go to prison, the elements are not the same and the mental energy are not the same.
While we are living, every minute, mind and matter are going on changing. And we do not know that. When the mind changes 17 times, the elements of the body change once. The mind changes rapidly. But continuity. Mind is just like ocean. Thoughts are like waves. Waves goes up, come down. After coming down, produce another one. Another waves come up because of that. So our thoughts that appear in the mind come up like waves, goes down and disappear, but create another one. Continuity of the same thing. That one goes up, again goes down and produce another one. This is the nature of the thoughts in our mind. Not the same, but the previous one creates again continuity of the thought. That is how we maintain memories. The reaction or the effect. When we create a bad deed, that means we violate the existing universal law. We kill a man or an animal. But living beings also have living rights. We have no right to deprive the living right of that living being. By doing that, we violate the universal law. That is why the bad effect comes to us. It is not through religion, not through God. By violating the existing universal law, the reaction, bad effect, comes to us. Many people say without God they cannot understand it. There must be God to punish. So, this mic is an electric gadget. Current shortage is there. You know this. And you advise me, please don't touch this mic, there will be a current shortage. But I don't care, I don't listen, I touch this one. I get electric shock, I may die. That is the way, how I violated the existing law, how the bad effect come to me. There is no God, there is no devil to punish me. Just because I touch this one. All our action, what we violate the universal law, reactions come to us exactly in the same way. We mold our life, the fate or the destiny are in our hand. In that case, what about the planets? Astrology explains certain things happen to us through the influence of the stars or the planets. Again, palms reading. They predict or say something. So, planet can influence us. The Buddha's advice is, if your mind, mental energy is strong enough, you can topple this cosmic energy or the planet that influence you. Just like missile. You know, empty missile. One country sent a missile to other country, that country also sent another missile. These two clash and cannot reach there. Exactly in the same way, when you develop your mental energy, the influence that comes from the planet you can topple. Atto attassa nakhattam king karisanti taraka. The Buddha says. Taraka means planet. If your mind is energetic, dynamic, powerful, what can those stars can do? Don't surrender to them. If not, yes, they will definitely influence you. The Buddhism never surrendered to astrology. Buddhism means the method taught by the Buddha. If we keep quiet without developing our mind, then they can influence us, create a lot of problems. Astrology is there. Then the palmistry, reading. This is not bluffing actually, but many people just bluff, but if they have studied this very clearly, they can mention certain things. What will happen to them? Dr. Valpala Rahula, who has written what the Buddha taught, his elder brother went to India to study Ayurvedic medicine. At that time he was a married man. He has given her horoscope to an astrologer. After reading, he has said, "I'm sorry, your wife can live only 3 years." Very young couple. He did not believe this. Even then, when he finished his study, he went to Sri Lanka. Exactly after 3 years, wife died. Then, what he did? He decided to come and learn astrology in India. Come and study, and he become first class astrologer. He is the one who has cast the horoscope of the Buddha. Very clearly mentioned why the Buddha's mother died 7 days after giving birth, why Buddha had to renounce at the age of 29, why he had to suffer 6 years in the jungle without food and this and that, why he got enlightenment at the age of 35, and why he had to suffer as a Buddha during 45 years, different places, the planetary systems, how they influence him, but only physical body. After enlightenment, they could not create disturbances with mind. But before his enlightenment, the planet influenced his life also, the Buddha. Last night I gave the answer to this question. Do we have the right to be angry if parents and even scold them if they did something wrong? Parents. But last night I explained the parents' anger toward the children. I justify. It is not anger. That is emotional expression, very rough and tough. Idea is to correct them, teach them to be good. Therefore they do not do any bad karma. But here, anger toward the parents is not very appropriate. Because they are elders and they are parents. Without showing anger, we can tell them nicely, kindly. They may accept. Not necessary to scold them. Next one.
Reverend did mention that no matter what religion we could achieve enlightenment if we purify one's mind with understanding human values. Therefore, it is important for us to put in effort to increase the number of Buddhists as long as we practice human values.
That is the problems. Many other religionists, what they need actually, to increase their numbers with their followers. That is called conversion. Because when they convert a person, they get at least 10% of their salary. So for heaven is not the important thing to them. 10%, they must donate. This one very clearly mentioned, even Emperor Asoka, 200 years after the Buddha, who introduced Buddhism all over the world. Still these wordings are there in Asoka pillar, engraved there in India. We say, when you are going to preach Buddhism, please remember not to accuse, not to blame, not to condemn another existing religion. If you do that, you insult your own religion. See the Buddhist attitude more than 2,300 years ago, Buddhist attitude. So the Buddha also has given saying, we don't want to convert anybody, but we can advise, we can guide, we can tell them what is right and what is wrong. That is enough for us. You know, a student from International Islamic University and some other places always come to our temple. Spend 2-3 hours like this, discussing. They want to know Buddhism. Some Muslims have taken Buddhism as a subject for their thesis to write, for their PhD. They come and discuss with us. So we explain Buddhism very clearly. Then they feel very happy. And we can work together. We don't want to convert anybody. We can help each other if we can maintain this attitude. So when we say we don't want to convert others, then others take the advantage of that. That is the problem. I have been working here 46 years. I have not converted even one person here. But do you know how many thousands accepted Buddhism, but we did not convert them. There is no such thing as conversion in Buddhism. There is nothing to convert. I cannot convert you if you are a Christian or Hindu. I can tell you something, then you convert your own mind. I cannot convert your mind. Therefore it is wrong. People say, oh, so and so come and convert me. Another person cannot convert. He can come and tell you something to win your heart, then you convert your own mind. So these are the questions.
Chief, question is, mine is going to touch about theology, you know. See, I've seen your face in the TV and touch about the message from the Prime Minister during the festive season and so forth. But I've been thinking more of the discussions rather than a question. Now, but in my mind, you may correct me, Chief, is like this. The present religion, I think, is a very sensitive issue to the government. And this is, of course, involve the politics and the leadership of the day. Now, of course, the religion also is a testimony only by the holy man. And this is a question all over the world. It's what you said. You better cultivate good like a morality or good conduct and behavior. There's no thing to do. Now, my question is this about theology. Did any of the government, these people, of course, theology is a study of and the system of religion, whether Buddhism had been ever invited to touch on, did not. Is it because they are afraid? Because our religion said there's no God, to them there's a God. And then they accept your religion because they have reason to believe the noble truth. May I have a comment on this, Chief?
I think it is wrong for us to say that Buddhists do not believe in God. It is wrong. I never advise anybody to say, as Buddhists, they must say, oh, we don't believe in God. It is wrong. Concept of God, different. Christian, Muslim, Hindus, they have belief in God. Buddhists also have gods, but their concept is not like others' concept and belief. So we can compromise in this way. So I discussed this matter with many Muslims also. So there is no argument for that. Allow us to maintain our concept on God, leave them alone for them to maintain their concept. But the Buddhist attitude is this. Although we do not deny the existence of God, we should not depend on God for everything. We have to do our duty. Example, you believe in God for your protection. Very good. No one can say you are wrong. But don't forget to lock the door when you go out station. There is no guarantee God will protect your house until you come back. That is the Buddhist attitude towards the God. To lead a religious life, we cannot say only this particular religion can help. Others are wrong, we cannot say. The Buddha, during his so many previous births, do you think he was born in Buddhist families? Where was Buddhism at that time? Even last birth, as Prince Siddhartha, he was not born in a Buddhist family. King Suddhodana, Mahamaya, they were not Buddhist. Therefore, that family background or the traditional cultural religious beliefs are not important for a person who can understand what is right and what is wrong, because that person has developed his understanding. Therefore, in Muslim family, there will be so many people who are better than so-called Buddhists. In Christian families, there may be many who are better than Buddhists. Therefore, we cannot condemn them just because they are Hindus or Christians or Muslims. Though we Buddhists claim the label only. But when we analyze our way of life, how far we have developed our kindness, honesty, compassion, cooperation, patience, understanding. Compare these good qualities with the follower of another religion. There may be many who have developed the same good qualities among the followers of other religions. So, our duty is to advise people to lead the religious way of life, respectable, harmless way of life, under any religious label. We are not bothered about that. And those who want to maintain egoism and glorify, oh, now we have so many Buddhist population increasing, these are our human weaknesses. These are not the things that the Buddha wanted. He wanted us to be good, do good. Forget about all the religious labels.
Usually we extend our merits accumulated to our departed relatives. How do they benefit then, since they got their rebirth at the moment of their departure?
These questions, we cannot transfer the merits to each and every person who depart from this world. We can transfer it, but they cannot receive. Understand? Those who are born as animals cannot receive anything. Those who are in hell cannot receive anything. And those who are in Devaloka and Brahmaloka do not depend on others' merit, they have more than enough. And those who are born as humans also do not transfer the merit to them. But for the living persons, we can invite to share the merit. Transference of merits only toward the departed, not the living person. Then there are a spirit, ghost, different groups. You have only hungry ghost, but others have so many kind of ghosts. But I always mention that Chinese ghosts are very obedient. Yes. Very obedient. There is a particular time for them to come up and stay only 1 month, never overstay even 1 day, knowing the immigration restriction. They go back and sleep for 1 year and again come back after 1 year. These are Chinese ghosts. But the other ghosts come and disturb us every day. Very nicely arranged this system. There are some spirit, some ghost. Only one particular group can receive the merit, not others.
Are there any more questions? Before we open line. Okay. There's one more question over there.
I think what meant to be said here is a lot of conflict has arisen because of religion. Why would a human being still want to belong to a religious group?
Bertrand Russell, one of the best philosopher in the West, is an agnostic who had no religion at all, who hates every religion. This book he has written, Born Good, discrimination created by religious people to another religion. Those who have no religions are completely free from all this trouble. They never develop this ill will, hatred, jealousy towards another group because they have no religion. And that is his feeling. So, we had to handle religion very carefully. It is emotional, very sensitive. People use religion as a weapon to gain more material things, to gain more worldly power, to gain political power. In many countries they use religion for politics. So they pollute the purity of religion by misusing religion for their personal gain. That is why differences, discrimination, problems, violence, bloodshed take place because of religion. So, from the very beginning up to this day, what religionists have done, creating violence and bloodshed, how they are divided human beings into different groups, discriminating others because of religion. Nothing wrong with religion. Something is wrong with the man's mind. Therefore, man pollutes the religion. We cannot blame the religion, we have to blame the people. So, as I mentioned earlier, whatever human beings handle, they misuse, they pollute. Religion, politics, education, all those things handled by the human being. But we can see how they play havoc by using these things for their own benefit or to discriminate others, topple others. All these are human weaknesses. Therefore, we cannot blame religion. Religions are very good. Motivation, aim of religions are very good. But people who follow, who handle the religion, misuse, create problems and trouble. Blessings. Sabbhi sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatvantarayo sukhi divayiko bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. So good health and long life and peace and happiness to all of you.